As you may know, I cover a lot of Steam Deck and Steam Deck competitors, and I generally cover the ones that sound the most interesting on paper. And this one might be the most interesting Steam Deck competitor I've covered, and it's certainly the most interesting handheld since the Steam Deck itself came out. This right here is the Orange Pi Neo. For those not in the know, Orange Pi typically makes Raspberry Pi competitors, these tiny single board computers. These are generally good for multiple different tasks, but these aren't generally used for PC gaming, which is why it's very interesting to see Orange Pi come out with a PC handheld, one that runs x86 hardware. To be more specific, they run AMD APUs. One runs a Ryzen 7840U and the other one runs a Ryzen 8840U as well. Both of these chips are really good, and yes, they will outperform the Steam Deck, but it seems the 8840U is poised to outdo the Steam Deck even in low voltage settings. At least that's what I've heard. So of course the second most important spec to all of these is the price. The 7840U model goes for $499 and the 8840U goes for $599. If these prices are to be believed and can be maintained, then these prices blow literally every other PC handheld out of the water. And these might seriously contend with the Steam Deck at its own price point, which is crazy to think about. We've never seen a decent Steam Deck competitor come close to its price point, at least until now that is. The price sounds great, fantastic, excellent, maybe a little too good. What are they giving up exactly? Making these PC handhelds can't be cheap, and at least Valve has an excuse. They own Steam, so obviously they don't need to make a profit on the Steam Deck. But how did Orange Pi get their prices so low? Which is a good time to talk about the OS. The OS is not Windows, but rather a special version of Manjaro OS designed for this device specifically. I don't see the OS choice being a major factor as to why this device is so cheap, but it does help a little bit. Manjaro is based on Arch Linux. Manjaro specifically is the operating system that Valve recommends when you want to test your games out for Steam Deck compatibility. You know, just in case you don't have a Steam Deck dev kit. More specifically, this is a special version of Manjaro only known as Manjaro Gaming Edition. It's supposed to be an operating system with a focus on flat packs. The desktop experience is powered by KDE Plasma, the very same KDE Plasma that's prominently featured in the Steam Deck's desktop mode. They also tout the fact that you can get new software via the Discover app, which is, you know, part of KDE Plasma. And finally, quote-unquote seamless integration with Steam UI, and you can even update the entire system through the Steam game interface. All of this sounds kind of like a Steam operating system that we're all too familiar with. Can anyone think of a name, maybe? All jokes aside, this is essentially Manjaro's version of SteamOS. It's even got the same immutable file system that SteamOS has. The big question is, what does this OS have over SteamOS? Well, as far as I can tell, there's no real difference. SteamOS is also based on Arch Linux as well, but if I had to be honest, I think the big difference is Manjaro's update schedule. Manjaro updates on a fairly frequent basis, at least a lot more frequent than the desktop components of SteamOS. There's also the possibility of Manjaro Gaming Edition being an operating system that you can install on just about any PC handheld. It would join the likes of Bazite or Chimera OS or Nobara in terms of replacement OSs for Windows handhelds. But there's nothing suggesting that Manjaro Gaming Edition will be a public release. I mean, I certainly hope it's a public release, but we won't know until they tell us otherwise. So enough about the OS, let's talk about the controls. The Orange Pi Neo features a full complement of controls. It's got 2 thumbsticks, D-pad, face buttons, start and select, 2 bumpers, 2 triggers, just about everything you would expect in a modern controller. There are no back buttons, but it seems like there's a macro button right beside each bumper. I've had the pleasure of trying out controllers with macro buttons on the bumpers, and I firmly believe that this is where macros should be. Like seriously, I prefer these shoulder designs better than I do the back buttons, but it looks like the macro buttons beside the shoulder buttons are a little far. Maybe they should be a little closer and a little bigger too. But of course, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, the trackpads. The Steam Deck standout feature are the trackpads. The trackpads can do a lot of things. They can help you navigate the desktop, or they can be used in Steam Input to do a lot of things. Now admittedly, the Orange Pi Neo isn't the first non-Steam Deck handheld to have trackpads. The Aya Neo Kun has trackpads, but they kinda suck. And by kind of, I mean they really suck. Like, you can't really do anything with them besides just navigating desktop and moving your mouse around. Like, seriously, they don't have integration with Steam Input, therefore they have less functionality than the Steam Deck trackpads. This is irrefutable proof that trackpads are only good because Valve made them good. Reading the literature on the quote-unquote dual intelligent touchpad, they really don't give me a whole lot of confidence. Like, yes, you can do swipe gestures, you can have a mouse experience, but can you do any of the Steam Input stuff? Because doing mouse stuff is pretty cool, but doing Steam Input stuff with trackpads is way cooler. Like, honestly, if a trackpad doesn't have Steam Input capabilities, then don't even bother. Like, seriously. Still though, here's the hoping Orange Pi doesn't disappoint with the trackpads. But even if the trackpads are a disappointment, I hope the rest of the controls are pretty good because it still has a full complement of controls. Oh, and I forgot to mention that the thumbsticks are in fact Hall effect sticks, and that the triggers are also Hall effect as well. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention it has gyro as well. So now let's talk about the rest of the specs. The display is a 7-inch 16:10 display, featuring a 1920x1200 resolution, with 500 nits of peak brightness and 120Hz refresh rate. It doesn't specify if it's OLED or LCD, but I'm willing to bet that it's not an OLED display. Still though, LCDs can look quite good, but OLED just blows out of the water, and I know this because I used to be an OLED denier. You can supposedly get up to 16GB or 32GB of LPDDR5 memory. I don't know if upgrading to 32GB of RAM will cost even more on top of the $599 price, but honestly I probably wouldn't recommend it if it were. It'll feature 2 USB Type-C ports, USB 4 to be specific, and a headphone jack and an SD card slot. USB 4 is a pretty big deal because you can plug in eGPUs and get better performance. I don't have an eGPU, but I'd certainly love to try one out with this device. And while, yes, the headphone jack sounds like an obvious inclusion, it's 2024. A lot of phones don't come with headphone jacks these days. And there's no information on whether or not the micro SD card slot is UHS 1 or UHS 2. It features Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.3. You can get anywhere between 512GB to 2TB of NVMe storage. It features a full-size 2280 sized SSD. What this essentially means is you can replace it with a much cheaper 2280 SSD. And of course, let's talk battery. The Orange Pi Neo is supposed to have a 50-watt-hour battery, the same capacity as the Steam Deck OLED. Now this is very promising because more battery is always appreciated, but that doesn't necessarily mean it'll match the Steam Deck OLED's battery life. Only time will tell if that's even possible, but I would love to test out the battery capacity on this thing versus the Steam Deck OLED and other devices. Like, a 50-watt-hour battery is still very impressive. Like, look at the Legion Go, it has a 49-watt-hour battery, and it does pretty well in battery tests. If y'all want to see me test the Orange Pi's battery, just let me know. So that about covers it for the Orange Pi Neo. What makes the Orange Pi Neo is that it's basically just a Steam Deck, but faster. It runs a form of Linux out of the box, which no other PC handheld has done besides the Steam Deck. The pricing also looks quite fair too, though we don't really know the pricing of the highest end SKUs with the most RAM and the most storage. And of course, the trackpads. If the trackpads are even nearly as functional as the Steam Deck's trackpads, then this could be a true Steam Deck killer. I mean, there's still battery life to consider, I still have to test that out for myself. On paper it just sounds like the Steam Deck, but better, and that's what I want to see. But we don't really know if it's any good because I don't have the device yet. I don't have the dang device yet. But if the device comes out anytime soon and not when I'm away from home, then I'll be sure to test it out for myself and review it for myself. If you like this video, please press the like button and check out our other videos. And if you like those other videos as well, be sure to press the subscribe button and share the good gospel of high-tech lowlife with your friends. Furthermore, we have a community Discord for enlightened individuals such as you. And if you wish to further support high-tech lowlife, be sure to check out our Patreon page. Links in the description.